Okay. I'm curious if it should be a different type of metric, though. Like, hear me out for a second. Boring to crazy. There's other things like humor. There's funny. There's education. There's like being educational, having good information, having good content, having it be funny and not boring, but also not crazy. Maybe not talking about aliens or whatever it is. So do you think it could be like is it a line of boring to crazy, or is it more of like a wheel or like a triangle where you're like, where do I fit inside this triangle? Is there another thing that's important that's not boring or crazy? Like, I'm not going to give you an example. I'll let you think there is one. Is there any other part of having great content or a great podcast that we should be thinking about?
Well, I think that all of that can be important, and that's understanding the direction that you want to go in. The reason why I use kind of the boring and crazy is because I think all of those other things fit in there, right? Like there are people who are crazy funny as well, right? But I look at somebody maybe like a Russell Brand, who seems like he's really taken off, like his podcast and everything is really taken off. And I think he mixes a lot of those things together. Like, he's not super crazy. He's obviously not boring. He's a very dynamic personality. He's very funny. And I think that he probably would be somebody who does a good job of that. And I look at some of maybe the larger podcasts that I think that, even if you're telling a story about, because I know that like some of the murder mystery type of podcasts do really well. If that is entertaining, which again, and maybe this is where we could say that there's different types of words that you could use within this scale. But I feel like if you are entertaining, then it makes anything else good, right? Like if you're entertaining, a murder mystery podcast is better. If it's boring, then it's like, and you guys probably know out there, you listen to a podcast, and I'm not going to name any names here, but like I've listened to podcasts where it's like stinking great content, but it is so hard to listen to. It's just so boring and so dry. Like, just an example, I remember a while back, like I'm a Christian guy, and I was trying to like find some good podcasts that deal with like Christianity and like learning a little bit more. And it was just like podcast after podcast. It was like, these are so boring. Like, I get that maybe like religion and stuff can be a heavy topic, but can we have some fun with it? Right? Like, can we do a little something with it, make it a little bit more just like not Charlie Brown teacher style. And so I think that's more where I'm getting is it's not necessarily the content you're talking on. It's more about the delivery maybe. And yes, the content is part of it, but almost more like the delivery, how it's received, how you're putting it out there, and having a little bit of energy. Because like, I know when I sit here in like my recording studio, it's really easy to get like super down, like energy down, because you're not talking to anybody. You're looking at a computer screen or whatever it is. And so like another good piece of advice that I got is, and this was from live stage speaking, but typically, like if you go up on stage, you want to be at like a level 12 if 10 is high energy. Why is that? Because usually you're perceived to be about 3 to 4 notches lower in energy than what you think you are. So if you go up there just wanting to be like, I'm going to be a 7, you're probably going to be like a 4 and everyone's going to fall asleep. And I feel like there is some component to that when it comes to podcasting as well, which is like, if you think you're at a 10 energy level and then you go listen back to your podcast, because I've done this, it's like, oh my gosh, I sound so like lame and like low energy.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's actually because you're not realizing how you sound when you're speaking in an empty room all by yourself. And so like, that's part of it too, is like the energy, kind of the enunciation, stuff like that, making it more interesting and maybe staying away from boring.